Chicken coop construction continues. Now I'm working on making the framework for the walls, and I have to make some considerations for how I'm going to do the roof while I do that. All right, so since we last checked in, here's what I've done. I filled in this gap here to make this flush, and I did this with a very specific idea in mind. So I cut this 2x4 3.5 inches shy of the top of the post that sits behind it. And the reason that I did that was because I need this, in addition to making everything flush, to support this cross piece here. So with that in mind, I then cut this 2x4, and it's pretty short, honestly, because this 2x4 actually extends further than this area over here. So if you notice, there's two 2x4s stacked on top of each other over there, but over here I only had one. So be mindful of that kind of thing, because it's a really easy way to trip up. Full disclosure, I tripped up and didn't measure that one short and had to start over. Super fun, super common for DIY, so I don't even feel bad. My next step is going to be to measure and cut and install a 2x4 that's going to go all the way to the top of that post. Once I do that, I'm going to be able to take a board from the top down at a diagonal and secure it here. That's going to serve as the framework for my purlins, ultimately, is what they're going to be. Now that is not typical roof construction. If you refer back to the woodshed that I built, you'll see that what I did over there was I put a beam in place across the front of the structure, then I installed rafters, and lastly the purlins went on top. And the purlins are what the roofing gets secured to. The reason I'm not doing that here is because, frankly, I think it's a bit much for a 4x4 chicken coop to do that. I don't really see the need for beams in this particular application. So I know I need purlins though, because that's what the roofing gets attached to again. So how am I going to economically structure this so that I can install purlins going across the structure? Well, the answer is that front to back board. I also want to say that it's helpful when you're working over your head, which shorties like me often are, to pre-start your screws so that you can more efficiently hold what you're working with in place and pick up the drill or impact, in this case it's an impact, and drive those screws in without fighting with it too much. I've got both of the sides built up now, and so I'm moving to the front and the back. So now I'm going to put a cross piece here on top of these 2x6s and then continue building it up to the top with some 2x6 scrap. So the joys of working with salvage lumber is that sometimes you run a little bit low on the boards that are long enough. In this case, you have to get out the board stretcher. Now, a board stretcher doesn't actually exist, but there are some things that you can do to problem solve. So in this case, I need a 48-inch 2x4 to go across there. I do not have any more 48-inch 2x4s, except for some really long boards that I'm saving for the roof. So here's what I am up to. So I have taken two shorter boards and I have scabbed them together with a board that's going on the back side that no one will ever see. I've cut this total to 48 inches. And now it's going to sit up there and no one will be any the wiser. Now you can pull this off near the roof of your structure, which is where this is, because it's really not going to bear any weight, especially not in the roof that I'm designing, which is really just lightweight sheet metal roofing material.